Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the finale of Evil and Season 1 as a whole. So as I have covered this show through the first couple episodes, I really enjoyed it. I like the way that it used religious symbolism. I like the way that it was able to skirt the line between science and supernatural. Always keep you guessing. You never know what is real. It always has that plausible deniability where you're like, is it real? Is it not real? Are these things happening? Are they imagining it? And just having that line being drawn in the sand and constantly jumping back and forth across it made the show entertaining, and it really drew me into the overarching idea of the show. And the show continued that. It's one of the things that I've really liked about it is that it's always able to have you thinking whether these events are real, and you are put in the positions of these characters trying to solve these mysteries. Every episode has its own little nuance and its own little mystery, but it fits into the overarching idea of what Leland and what these other evil entities are trying to create. This kind of, legion of evil that is taking place across this whole universe of this show. I like that. I like that you have a lot of these little pieces fitting together but having their own individual stories. And speaking of Leland, he is obviously the standout of the show for a lot of people. Also for me, Michael Emerson is fantastic in this role, being this person that is so ridiculously two-faced, able to play almost two different characters. When he's with Kristen's mom, trying to be the suave, likable guy for the public face, and then having him just snap to be this ultimate evil, maniacal character. I think him playing those two different roles is excellent. And he also has a bit of vulnerability towards the last couple episodes. I thought the altercation between him and Kristen, when she kind of exposes who she is and kind of take the power back from him so he's not able to loom over her like this puppet master, him just being so upset by that and his reaction to that and her taking on that role, and were really good scenes in particular. And one of the things that I've enjoyed about this show is how it's able to integrate horror aspects and some horror visuals into the show, and having the goat-headed devil, the actual goat demonic demon being brought into the last couple episodes, I thought it looked really good. I thought it was really realistic. I don't know if it's entirely a costume, if it's entirely costume prosthetics or, visual effects layered on top of it. I just think it looks really good, and I wasn't expecting it to have that quality to it. Obviously, I thought it would come and be very CG looking, very fake looking, or you'd have the same thing done with George, where it looks kind of cool, but at the same time, it's pretty simple. This is a pretty complex costume, if it is a costume. And all that being said, I like that the devil is finally brought out. We're kind of seeing that these events are real in some capacity, at least on the surface level. We've obviously been teased throughout the whole series that there is this kind of legion of evil, but then Leland isn't who he says he is, and maybe these people aren't really who they think they are, and there isn't really, anything demonic going on. But having it all get turned on its head on the last couple episodes and seeing that maybe these things are real, and just that realization made that last episode very impactful. I think it was a really solid finale. The only issue I might have with it is it's very rushed. You have a lot of things happening in that last episode, but it's such a whirlwind of things that I almost want to go back and watch it again, because there's constant just realizations, and you're seeing how big this thing is, whether it be the story about the fertility clinic and how that could be implicated across the whole series, or the introduction of the devil, or David's visions of what he's seeing. There's a lot to unpack in that last episode. It's funny because one of my favorite things about the early episodes has become one of my least favorite things about the series as a whole. And honestly, it's David. I think Mike Coulter plays the role very well, but he has developed kind of the least out of all the characters in the story. Kristen has obviously completely changed from the beginning of the series. You're seeing a huge complexity to Leland's character, what's going with him. Even Ben has shown shades of being a skeptic to being more of a believer. David's been pretty consistent, and he kind of makes bad decisions because of his consistency. He doesn't seem to ever learn from the events in the show. He just keeps going back and making these mistakes, getting caught, getting trapped, getting hurt over and over and over again. While his character is, the more benevolent thing in the show, I'd like to see him do a little bit more, be a little smarter at times. It's just, he keeps getting caught. It's like, you got to learn at some point. You got to think that people are bad. And the main story, the main thing I can take away from this show is that it kind of plays on the idea of how do you react to evil? What creates evil, and how do you combat that evil? And I like that they play on that idea. You're seeing Kristen do some horrible things towards the end of the show, even murdering someone. I mean, they make you believe that she murdered someone at the end of the show, and having that come back on her, and she's kind of inheriting this evil she's been trying to fight. And I really like those aspects of the show. Having someone be corrupted by the thing that they're trying to fight is always a timeless story that you see in films and movies, and they're able to pull it off pretty well in this. They're fighting against this evil, but then and them themselves are committing evil acts. So where do you draw that line? It's obviously a morality question, and I like that they toy with that concept. Some other things that this show does that I actually have enjoyed, it's become one of my favorite shows on television, honestly, is how it has such a surreal quality to it, and they're able to do that with some interesting choices when it comes to cinematography and visual effects. There was honestly one shot that I thought was pretty interesting in the last episode when you're seeing a tracking camera come out of out of a vent in a house, and they're able to do these kind of interesting things instead of having just one shot. You're having David having visions and seeing these crazy surreal things that you don't see a lot on network television. They usually play it pretty safe, but there's some interesting symbolism and visuals going on in the show. There's an episode where David is, inside this hospital, and he's almost having a fever dream type thing happening over and over and over again. I like that they're willing to take risks on the narrative and make it kind of an interweaving thing where you're always guessing, like I said, to know what's happening. So I like that the show takes risks. It doesn't play it safe, and I love the fact that it's getting a season 2 because they've built this interesting concept, this interesting world of how they're going to deal with these big picture issues. The show has blown up so much in the last few episodes from being basically Leland and his little network to maybe a global thing, a worldwide thing, and the corruption of the evil. I can't wait to see what they do. So those are my thoughts on season 1 of Evil. If you watched season 1 and you enjoyed it or you hated it, let me know what you thought about it. I'm always interested to see what people think, because maybe people think this show's a little overblown or a little ridiculous, or maybe you really enjoy the supernatural and crazy elements of it mixed with the science. So remember, comment down below, remember to like and subscribe, and see you next time.